Okay, so I had a lot of thoughts about the Amazing Digital Circus, and I feel like episode one, like if you want to just not watch any of the episodes and you want to just immediately go to watching the movies, what I would say don't. But if you had to, like someone in your family's watching it and now you're going to the movies with them and you don't want to be lost in the film because it's heavily lore based, you can literally watch episode one. I want to prove it that all you really do, really though, all you need to know is just episode 1 and 5 to be able to know the ending of the story. Episode 1, at the end, spoils that they're not actually in the circus. Oh, whether this is spoiler free. Like, I haven't watched the movie, I don't have, I don't know spoilers. You know what I mean? This is purely speculation, at least from the show itself. And, so episode 1 shows that they're actually in the circus, like, they're stuck there, like, their human bodies are no longer there basically. They're no longer with them. Like they are separate from their human bodies now. Whether that be like they're taken away or something, I don't know. But we know that they're separate from their human bodies because at the very end of episode one, you see the camera zoom out of the circus, and then it zooms more into the real world, and you see the screen still on and the headset off. Like no one's hijacked, like hooked up to the headset. So that shows that soma theory is most likely real. That most likely like digital brain scans, basically. That's what I get from that at least. And episode 5 is intermission time. So if you go to intermission time, it starts by saying intermission time. And I think this actually shows something, which is that if you count all the runtime together, intermission time would be the exact middle. Because the show is 10 episodes long. Episode 9 is like 2 episodes stitched together. So it's altogether 10 episodes long. And 5 is the middle of 10. Like half of 5 is the middle of 10, basically. The middle of 5 is the middle of 10. So intermission time happens around the middle part of episode 5. And I think that to me says that this is like an ad break. I think that they're in a show. Also, at the end of intermission time, Bubble says, "Welcome back to the show." So I feel like they're in a show. Maybe not someone watching them, but I feel like they are in a show. Maybe it's like meta, how it's like we're watching them, like a meta narrative. We're watching them, and so the beginning of intermission time starts with intermission time, and then it shows the cast. One thing I want to point out is that it shows the cast and Kane and Bubble. You know what I mean? And I feel like that points out something that these people are not from the circus. These characters are not from the circus itself, but instead they are out from outside of the circus. But they are now in the circus. They are now trapped in the circus because you see their faces kind of like expand and then they sink back into one another, kind of like in a really nice animation style. And then you see Kane pointing to himself. You see Kane pointing to himself, and then you see him doing some like funny moves. You know what I mean? But one thing you do notice that like his eye kind of turns into like this like five-fingered body nub thing, and he kind of looks like a tooth, but it's actually his eye doing that, and it kicks his other eye, and then he falls, and Bubble rises out. If that's not symbolism for something happening in the end, I don't know. Kane falling, and then another AI rising and taking his place, and then falling as well, and then coming back into the screen. I think that's heavy symbolism. Not only that, but when he falls, you see the colors for abstraction like kind of inking up, and then Bubble comes back. So that kind of tells to me that Kanger, Kane slash the AI running the circus, whether it be a different AI or like there was actually a bigger AI behind Kane controlling him as well, or whatever, that AI comes back in episode 8, at least. And then we see a scene of AIs devouring AIs, or him basically self-generating from himself, basically, which is something that AIs right now in real life are learning to do, which is taking from itself as training data, which is very bad. But it shows how he's falling, he's failing over time. Like he's physically, mentally, not mentally, programming wise, deteriorating over time. And then we see him create the circus. the yellow and red sparkles behind him mean the circus. So he then, after he ate the AIs and started to eat more and more and more, aka himself as well, he then starts the circus and then actually starts the show. And then you see Pomni, which I believe is like a character surrogate for characters like cast. Zubul and Pomni seem to be like synonymous with the cast as a whole, in fact. And they see him start the show and then shut the show on her, quite literally shutting her down. And I think it's another like sort of point that I want to point out is that he likes to torture them in ways that they wouldn't like. Like Pomni's afraid of being seen as the lesser person or being taken less seriously than other people, and he made her the smallest one and a literal clown. You know what I mean? Um, Gango Musaka has bipolar, and he gave her two literal masks as well. And then his eyes, they're kind of like moving with bubble, and then they turn to us, like the viewer or the person who's like experiencing this, I'll say, the person who's experiencing it, and then he turns that from like three black dots to his eyes and bubble, and then back to a dice, and he throws that down. And when you go inside, you see all the characters falling helplessly, like they're trying to reach at something. You see Jax, Zubul, Gangle, and you see them three falling. I'm not sure what them three falling really means. Gangle's kind of like an odd mix to throw, but I guess it could mean the cast. But I believe that the dice, them being inside the dice, shows that he's gambling and literally playing with them. You know, a lot of games require dice. I feel like he's literally playing with them. Um, then we see the eye event, which actually isn't the one in episode 8. It's a reflection of it. But I guess it could be. It could be the one. I think that the dice scene is the dice scene of them falling is him torturing them in episode 8. And then this is him doing the whole eye thing in episode 8 that he did. And then he's like, let's get this show on the road. And then he flips. This is now, I believe, episode 9 territory. Or episode 8, 9, 7 territory. Have like the cast showing up except for Zubul, and two bowling balls fall on Pomni and Jax. Like there's three bowling balls in the entire scene. They're all floating above the characters' heads. One's floating above Pomni, one above Jax, one above Kinger. Ragatha and Gangle have pound cakes above their head cakes. Um, so there's something about this, right? That I feel like is really important is that the cake, if you were to change the purple color of the cake to be chocolate cake, it'll look like the cake from Portal. Spoiler for Portal, but the cake is a lie. Yeah. So it's like kind of like a red herring almost. So I feel like in episode 9 we're gonna think that they're gonna abstract, like they're getting close to abstraction, but actually the ones who get close to abstraction are Pomni and Jax, right? And why I think that is because Kinger, who's known to be resilient against abstraction, grabs his bowling ball and splits it open. But then, right after he splits it open, it makes the entire black void white. Someone knocks him off the board, making the black board, though the white void, now black again. And then we follow him down as he falls off the board. I think that someone's gonna make Kinger out of action, basically. Something's gonna happen to Kinger in episode 9. I don't know what, but I feel like someone might push him into the void, or something else like that might happen. But he grabs the bowling ball, stops himself from abstracting, and then someone pushes him off the checkered board, or the playing space entirely. It could be Zubul, they're kind of hinting at it being Zubul, but I don't think it's Zubul. I don't think it's Zubul. And then we follow him to the void. Bubble eats Pomni's head, but before then, Kane grabs them, and then from his hands, um, he kind of spawns all the characters inside of this, like, sort of paper cutout people way. And I think this shows that their models are, like, like, he directly made these models in, like, some, like, obviously that's the obvious, like, thing that we know that obviously he made the models, dude, you're looking into it too much, but I think it's more like they are things that he can mold. Like they are playthings to him. And then Bubble eats all of them. And then we see the red AI. The red AI. Because before, whenever like these weird effects were on the screen, they're all blue, but now they're red. And then we see Kinger and Kane's hands. I think these are just Kinger's. But one thing that I noticed is that a lot of the characters who are developers have white gloves on. Just saying. I see that a lot. But a lot of characters who are able to mess with code in general have gloves on. And that's why Jax, all of them have gloves on except for Gangle. And I think that doesn't mean that she can't. It's just like she just can't have gloves on because of the way her body is. But another person who doesn't is Ragatha. But then again, she's made of cloth, so her hands are kind of already gloves, you know? You could kind of see it like that. But then you see Kinger doing something to the circus. If you know, you know. And then we see the blue AI magic stuff happening again. And we see Kane's hat push us, like we're going into Kane's hat, and we see Zubul, which could be the cast, Jax and Pomni in a white box, what I think represents the void in general. And they're kind of doing nothing, and this is the bulk of episode 8, I believe. And then we see something, which I cannot really tell, which I think might be them attempting another escape sort of thing, or attempting to figure out more about what they're in. And then Kane comes back, or Kane appears again, and then he snaps them. And we see Jax all around abstraction, Lily abstraction closing in on Jax. And he reminds himself of Ribbit depressing himself more. Right when that happens, Zubul stops it. Zubul, or I'll say the cast, stops what's happening to Jax and asks Kane, "What are we doing right now?" And then Kane says, "We're intermissioning." And then Zubul asks, "Why are we doing this?" I feel like someone's gonna ask Kane, "Why are we doing this?" Zubul then says, hello," and then afterwards Bubble says, "And now back to the show." And I feel like that entirely tells you the entire series. Like, there's no more exposition needed. That's it. That is all it is. That is all you need to know about the entire series, is that course of events. That's it. Bye.